Hello and welcome to the Questionable Album Club, the podcast where this beautiful panel of music fans, we attempt to blow the dust off some of rock's curios, failures and generally perceived missteps. And I am like a good boy going straight to the top 10, which Ross is going to read out today. We have a chart for this. We mark everything out of 100 and Ross is going to read our top 10.
Okay, and number 10, it's the wonderful Joni Mitchell with Dog Eat Dog. Number 9, Motorhead with the Manticore Tapes. Number 8 should be number 1, but it's number 8 is Grinder Man 2, which is a great album. Um, at number 7, oh my God, it's Slayer, God Hates Us All. Number 6, Van Halen 3. Number 5, The Rolling Stones with their Satanic Majesty's Request. Number 4, Yes and Drama. Number 3, The Doors and the Soft Parade. Number 2, God Help Us, it's a Happy Mondays and Yes Please. And at number 1, it's the Fastest Fingers in the West, Rick Wakeman with the Six Wives of Henry VIII.
Very good, Ross. Very good. Excellent work. On the panel today, we have Ross. Hi, Ross. Thanks for that.
Yep.
We've got Steve Gibson. Hi, Steve.
Hello.
We've got Marcus Kingwell back from We've Just Learned Isn't Your Period of Exile, but hi, Marcus. It's been a while. Hello.
Hi.
And we've got Steenie. Hi, Steenie.
Good evening. Yeah.
It was my choice, and I don't know if I mea culpa. I didn't realise when I chose this. Today's album is Marillion, by the way. It's Clutching at Straws, their fourth album with Fish, the one just before he left from 1987, before he left to go solo with Vigil in the Wilderness of Mirrors and all that sort of stuff. And he was replaced by Steve Hogarth, who is still with them now, and they've recorded 20 albums, and they were the first band ever to do that kind of crowd-funded album with, well, that was one in 2001. Neo-prog band, neo-prog, like Palace, 12th Night, IQ, that sort of thing. But I think they really broke through with Misplaced Childhood, which is a concept album about childhood from 1985, which has their big hit, Kaylee, which got to number 1 or 2 in the UK charts, which kind of broke open that whole neo-prog scene before it then, thank God, closed again. I hadn't realised when I chose this. I thought Marillion are kind of right for this because Marillion have always been around. They're one of those bands that's sort of been, fucking Marillion. I just feel that at some point Marillion's going to come up, so we might as well do Marillion. And I thought the album with the terrible cover with all these kind of like people at the bar, this dark, awful cover, the last one that Fish did, I thought that this would be, this is perfect for us. But it turns out, I guess we've all seen this, right? That Marillion fans really revere this one, and it's perceived to be their great Fish masterpiece. So I can only apologise for choosing an album that is perceived to be good. So I hope I'm forgiven for that in the general quack. Steve, as you're the quacker police, am I okay with this choice?
I was going to sort of bring up whether this is a questionable album, whether Marillion themselves are questionable, but I take your point really. I think they're worth discussion because I think I'm not sure this album is questionable in itself, but I think there's a good conversation to be had around Marillion.
Yeah. Do you seeing as you're here, Steve? Have you ever seen them live or anything like that, or owned any?
No. They were when I was growing up. They were. I'm sure we all remember they were in Kerrang. There must have been a couple of writers in Kerrang who absolutely loved them, and I didn't really. I mean, I'm a big progger, but I think prog is such a blanket term, and they're more from the wishy-washy sort of Genesis end of things. So they never really, and I didn't really take to Fish. Although as time's gone on, I've learned. I like the crowdfunding thing. I like the fact that they you can send when they go on tour, you can send in your demo and stuff, and if they like you can go on tour. In fact, I think me and Steenie have a mutual friend who've actually done that and had a brilliant time. And
sorry, can you explain what? I don't know what this is.
oh, when they go on tour, they don't support acts. It's not pay to play or any of that nonsense. It's you can send in your demo, and if they like you, you get to support them for a few dates, through for a
Really?
yeah, it's really cool. And our mate who did it said they were just brilliant. It was great. There was like no sort of like, it wasn't a situation where you got, literally a tenth of the stage and shit sound. You had the full crew. They really made an effort for you. And it was just all that stuff. And I find it quite endearing that they've gone on to where they are, but they just get on and do their thing. And if you don't like it, you don't have to listen to it. And they have their weekenders. As on research for this, I noticed there was albums from like night 1, night 2, night 3, and I listened to we'll get to it later, but I ended up with a Hogarth era singles album singles live album in my Spotify collection now because I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it's one of those live albums where you can feel the good vibes on it. You know, everybody's having a cracking time, and I'm a fan of Hogarth, but we're not here to talk about him tonight. But and the other thing like Fisher recently I saw this made me laugh that he was on a Word in Your Ear podcast a couple of months ago, and he's up in the wherever he is in the islands or whatever, and apparently he's been told, and this is in all seriousness, he said this, a mystic has told him that he's going to be more famous as a writer now in this phase of his life than he ever was as a musician. So hold on to your hats, folks.
He's just retired, hasn't he, into the Scottish Highlands?
Right. And
I didn't know he was going to write. What, like as in novels?
Yeah, this psychic has told him he's going to be more famous as a writer than he ever was as a musician, like 10 times more famous.
They only ever bring good news, don't they?
Well, not for us.
Marcus, I don't know. There's something. I don't know. I always look at you and I sort of do think Marillion. Have you got?
Yeah, I thought you would, Seb. Yeah, well, thank you for the backhanded compliment, which I've been, missing over these last few weeks.
Can I just say why? I think it's because you used to play in a band with our mutual friend Owen, and it's a bit like that, isn't it? It was a bit. You sounded a bit like this.
You are so right, to my everlasting shame. Because I never liked Marillion, never liked prog, as you'll know from this podcast. I was very derisive about the Yes album, and I approach all progressive rock or neo prog with ultimate prejudice. But that band I was in the early '90s, shame Owen isn't on this pod, because we were uncannily like this band in sound, and even things like the drum fills and the guitar tone. Really, really similar, and style, and just loads and loads of stuff. So it's a kind of an oddball one for me. Yeah, it gives me that kind of internal conflict when listening to it. But so I try and open my mind, because also when we had the Wives of Henry VIII, the Six Wives, that was one which I approached with certain blinkers on, and ended up giving it my top score. I absolutely adored that album. We recorded it. So I'm thinking, come on, open your mind, Kingwell. This is the quack.
But Marcus,
things can happen.
Sorry, Marcus, you don't have a sort of a few copies in your garage of the single of that band.
Well, funny you should say that. Yeah, I've got a TDK C90, I think, but I won't inflict that on you. Which was also a concept album, because this is a concept album apparently about a man.
Well done, Steve. Well done, Steve.
Yeah, so that's coming out later. That's actually, well, anyway, maybe that's one for a future quack episode.
But Marcus, you've never done, because we were all old metal as well, apart from Ross, I suppose. Yeah. We all grew up with Marillion. We were all Marillion adjacent, weren't we? And at some point,
we were.
Kaylee washed over everybody.
Yeah.
So you must have an opinion. We're all sort of going, well, Marillion, but Marillion were. No. They were there, weren't they?
They were there. They were, in fact, on the old battle jackets, people might have, Maiden and Priest and Marillion would be on there sometimes. It was a bit of a. It was a shock of the. But I was clear from the word go. This is not my band. And when you're 16, it's basically hate, isn't it? It's like I hate Marillion. That was the big thing. But now I've realised it feels a bit like punching down. It's a bit like a kind of Ricky Gervais joke to dig in at them, because, as I say, they give a lot of people a lot of pleasure. Who am I to be critical? And in some ways, Marillion to prog, it's a bit like The Darkness is to hard rock, or UB40 is to reggae. It's a pastiche, isn't it? It's made for the charts. It's 20 years after its heyday, and they bash it out. So good luck to them. They make their money, but they're not my thing. But I'm not going to get onto the songs just yet, because this is the opening.
It is.
The opening I don't think me and Marillion.
I don't think it's pastiche though, Mark, because I think it's kind of. I think it's sort of it's they obviously love Genesis, because Fish is copying him with the makeup, and his voice is uncannily similar to Peter Gabriel's, and it's a sort of 80s update of prog. I think. I don't think it's pastiche. I think. Well, anyway. Ross.
Yes.
Someone must have fucking seen Marillion. Come on.
I've a bit of an odd relationship with Marillion.
That's good. Sounding promising.
Because when the first two albums that I was just completely almost unaware of them, other than the name. And Misplaced Childhood comes out, and I'm aware of them but not interested. And then someone offers me a ticket to go and see them on the Misplaced Childhood tour at Milton Keynes Bowl. And the thing was, I wasn't massively interested in that, but I was a big fan of Gary Moore at the time, and Gary Moore was on the bill, so I snapped it up. And went up to Milton Keynes, and I remember it was Gary Moore and Marillion, Jethro Tull in support, Mama's Boys, I remember, and I looked it up on set list, and apparently Magnum played, but I've actually no recollection of them being there. But and so this was really, apart from having heard Kaylee, it was my first experience of Marillion's music, and I was blown away, absolutely blown away by that show. And I came home and I bought the three first albums and the live album Reel to Reel that was out, and just played them and just couldn't wait until the next tour. And then they toured again with this album, and I went up and saw them at Wembley Arena, and it was, so this is 87, and it was a really dull gig. It was a really real disappointment, and I'm like 16 years old. This is, I haven't been to that many gigs, and everyone I've been to before has been amazing, and suddenly it's like, oh, it's not always like that. And it was like someone burst my balloon, and I didn't go off in high dudgeon or anything, but it was really strange looking back. It was like the Marillion switch had got thrown off in my head, and I never bought another one of their albums, and I didn't really listen to them much until this week. And it's been really interesting going back and revisiting what a very short period of my life where I was just playing it over and over again. And it's, you've been listening to those albums and remembering what it was that of those first three albums, what it was that I really enjoyed at the time. And it's been fantastic to go back to my 15, 16-year-old self and think, yes, I remember this. So yeah, seen them live twice. Once absolutely amazing, once really dull.
Where did you go when they split and Fish went that way and they went that way? So you felt like, which direction do you go in, right?
I went to Bob Dylan, basically. I had no interest in either. And I hadn't really listened to any of the Steve Howe stuff until this last couple of weeks, and I have never listened to a Fish solo album. So no, I just completely, it just like it evaporated in a puff of smoke, and I was off becoming a folkie. So.
Steenie?
I've always had friends around me at different times of my life who've been absolutely mad about Marillion, and they're one of those bands. When Steve was saying perhaps they're not, this isn't the questionable album, this is the questionable band podcast we're doing today. I think that might be part of it. The fact that the reason they're seen as such a questionable band is because their followers have that sort of Grateful Dead level of devotion where it's just almost cultish. And you see it in other bands, and I'm a victim of it. I mean, I'm a big Iron Maiden fan, and I'll buy anything that's Maiden, and everyone's got their thing. But it's always been the thing with Marillion. I've always had mates at different stages, like I said. And so at school, I had this friend, Baldy, who was in my band, Mark Oldham. And we were in the band together. He's always trying to get us to play bloody Grendel. He's like, oh, we got to hear this song. It's amazing, Grendel. And he'd play me, and I'd be like, oh, good grief. Really? You want us to do this? And then he, it got to the point where just because of this relentless enthusiasm for something that I wasn't particularly interested in, it turned to kind of like resentment rather than just apathy with me. And it's, well, yeah, it's like you say, they were all over the rock press when I was a kid, and they were one of those bands I just kind of was like, well, should they be in Kerrang? All I really knew other than Grendel was Kaylee, the singles, Incommunicado, which I didn't realise was on this album, having been completely oblivious to Marillion until I listened to it. And I actually really, I know that song because I've heard it loads over the years. And then I've got friends now who go to the Weekenders. I know I've worked with two guys who have both been to the sort of Butlins events, and where they play like a different set every night. And I heard that recently I was talking to one of the guys, and he said that he went to one recently, or fairly recently, where there's certain songs that Hogarth won't sing that are Fish songs.
Oh, what specific ones, or any of them? Will he sing? There
are certain songs that he just won't sing. I mean, there are songs that he has to sing, I guess, because they're like mega hits. Like presumably, I don't know the ins and outs, but he said that they recently started getting a guy up to sing the Fish songs, do a set of the songs that Hogarth won't sing with the full lineup, but with this bloke who was, in time honored tradition, the singer in a Marillion tribute band prior to
Steenie,
and they were called Still Marillion. Get it?
Oh, that's good.
Still Marillion, Still Marillion. So
Steenie, do you know why Hogarth won't sing the Fish songs?
Either he just thinks they're naff, or they're out of his range, or they're too personal to Fish, or they're just something that he doesn't. I don't know if it's a. I guess I know that he's not been snobby about the Fish stuff in the past, because there are songs in their live set to this day, I think, from those early albums, but it's just I'm guessing he doesn't want to do Grendel, basically. He's one of the many people who haven't been tempted to form Grendel in their band.
Great, yeah. I mean, I'm the sort of same with the Grendel. I think a lot of us might have this sort of feeling that I think one of the reasons that I subconsciously raised this album was because why were they in Kerrang? I still feel we're all like, why the fuck? So that's perhaps my issue. My beef is like, why were they there? Because they didn't rock, did they? They just didn't rock.
There was a journalist, one of the journalists absolutely loved them, and their branding was good.
Was it Dave Dixon? I reading some of these Wikipedia entries for various albums, doing my in-depth research, that Dave Dixon's name keeps cropping up, and I always remember him in Kerrang liking a lot of stuff that I remember just writing off instantly because it had his name next to it.
No, he was okay.
Probably going to watch this, isn't he?
Dave Dixon liked Hello Rock, so Dave Dixon was always okay by me. Yeah. Steve, you made a really good point about the branding, that they had very unique, almost kind of a sort of proggy, neo-proggy version of Eddie the Head. They had that Jester, right? Yeah. Who then went off with Fish, didn't he? He did Vigil in the Wilderness. He went off, and after the split, the he went Fish-wise and did all his art. But I think that was a key. I think I remember, as a kid, you didn't understand. You saw these things and you knew exactly what it was going to sound like from looking at the cover art, like Eddie the Head, but much more polite and kind of pretentious.
Yeah,
that was the other thing actually in my past as well. I did actually listen to Vigil in a Wilderness of Mirrors when it came out, because Yannick Gers had just joined Iron Maiden, and I was curious to hear what his playing was like. So Baldy, my mate that previously mentioned, lent me that that album, and I remember listening to it and being absolutely bemused, like completely nonplussed by the entire thing. I was just, what is this? What is this man going to bring to Iron Maiden that's playing all these weird guitar parts on this odd sounding, not particularly rocking album? With the very
I didn't know Yannick Gers played guitar on Vigil in the Wilderness of Mirror as well. We've all learned something.
Yeah.
Although all Marillion fans will know this already, and they're probably just pressing,
Oh, they're all just like skip this bullshit.
Speaking of which, Steve, what did you think of this record?
It's a strange one, because I thought I really secretly back in the day loved Garden Pie, because you didn't get many interesting beats on top of the pops, but he did come up, and this album, what struck me the most was, so then Kayleigh came along. And I thought Kayleigh would be kind of, because they're in so much in the rock press. I was thinking, well, Kayleigh, they've written a hit single, a global hit single, and their back catalogue's going to be, the stuff I haven't heard is obviously going to be a lot more rocky and a lot more Kerrang worthy, as it were. So listening to this, I was quite surprised that the distance from Kayleigh to isn't that far. It's not a great leap, and it's cheesy. And like I was having it on here, and my other half came around and said, "Who is this? This is so cheesy." But you listen to Marillion fans talk about this album, and it's this dark sort of looming, Torch, whatever his name is. He's the drunken rock star. Isn't it a bit of a poor man's, Lamb Lies Down sort of thing? So anyway, but I was thinking, why? But the cheesiness of it, I was thinking, I wasn't minding it, and I was thinking, why is that? So I actually went and got some of the sheet music and was playing some of the chords on the piano to some of this to try and work out.
Sheet music.
Yeah. Well, I looked at it online. Yeah, and then I wanted to know what the chords were. Well, some of us that have, some of us that can, why not? So I was looking at the chords, thinking, and they can play. And interestingly, Ross, I listened to an interview with the guitarist, and then he was getting asked about this album and the tour, and he said that they really, really, really fell apart from Fish during this tour, and he really hated it. They all hated it. It was the first tour where they it was a bit they become sort of massive and separate limos, and they didn't mingle with anyone. They said I went around the world and just saw the inside of arenas and a bus for a year, and said we all what none of us really were in they seem a lot. He said we're a lot happier now doing what we do than then with all that peak of their success. So that could be a reason. But this album particularly, it was just that's what struck me more. It was just more cheesy than I thought. What I will say is on the Hogarth singles live thing set, which I've now put into my Spotify because I enjoyed it. The songs off this, Incommunicado, the Warm Wet Circles, and there's another one they do and um, instantly it was like it's just so much better because I really like Hogarth's voice. I'm a fan of his voice, and yeah, I think he just sings them. He sings all the Fish stuff that I've heard him sing just so much better than Fish did. 'Cause I'm not a fan of Fish's voice. Um, so that I found that interesting. This album itself, I yeah, I can't. It's I didn't. It was just so much more cheesy than I expected it to be. But they can play, and there was which is the song I could sort of count along in seven to one of them, which is always a bit of a hit with me on an album. So I actually quite enjoyed it about 100 times more than I thought I was going to enjoy a Marillion album top to tail. Yeah, so I liked it, and the keyboards didn't bother me. I think because I was half expecting it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
you're
expecting
braced.
that.
You were
Expecting.
braced.
Yeah,
Braced.
braced for it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's just I think the last three. What's the strange that the strange which is it? And there's Sugar Mice as well. That Sugar Mice. There's the one before it, which is a Gaelic name.
Slanty.
Yeah, those last three are just so sort of saccharine and cheesy, and But there at points the guitar solos and stuff. I was thinking this is like latter day Floydy. I was getting that sort of vibe from it.
Yeah.
But having said that, I think Marillion kind of do. There's an honesty about them. They kind of do what they do, and you can't, as you
There's
said, you can't sort of fault them for being what they are and run that up the flagpole, can you? You can't say. And they hadn't sort of gone down the road of using ridiculous sort of up to the minute inverted commas production techniques and like the Clash or other bands we've looked at on this. So yeah,
well,
yeah, I actually, yeah, I didn't mind it, and I don't know why I didn't mind it.
yeah. I understand everything you're saying, but I know what you mean about Fish. I think Fish. He's not a great singer, but I suspect he got away with it through charisma because he was like
Yeah,
6'10"
yeah.
or whatever,
I
and
did.
was this
So I
large
looked
and life
up.
character. And
Yeah, I looked up Garden Party and Incommunicado, their Top of the Pops performances. So I mean, it was quite the Garden Party Top of the Pops performance. It was so strange at that point on Top of the Pops to see someone in Peter Gabriel makeup doing strange moves, so looking back, you sort of think, well, that's off to him.
have you seen any of the? Has any of you seen any of that? Because they played Donington, of course, didn't they, in
Yeah,
1985? Have you seen any footage of that?
no, I haven't. No, is there some out
Oh
there?
my, yeah, it's absolutely. Fish has got it's so weird. Mark Kelly, the keyboard player, he looks like very polite, and he's got leather trousers on, and Fish is just wandering around with his cut t-shirt. He's got the makeup on. It looks really bad. It's so
Oh,
weird. It's so weird. It's all. It's just,
that was that sort of script. That's what they call it. This script. Was that time, or was it?
it was post childhood, so
Right.
it was
Okay.
that. That's what they were really high on. I think it was second. Wasn't that ZZ Top year 85?
Hmm. I think so.
Why
Yeah, I
weren't you
think it
there,
was.
Marcus? Why weren't you there?
Same as you weren't there, Seb. I was too young.
You-
It was 85 was Deep Purple at Nebworth. There's only so much
Yeah,
you
it
can handle
was.
in one year.
Yeah, we were all there at that one.
Yeah, we were rocking out to the Mama's Boys. I don't know about you,
Yeah,
Seb.
yeah. So watching the big.
Straightforward, no
Ross,
looking back.
Ross saw Mother's Boys at Milton Keynes Bowl with Marillion.
Yeah.
Ross killed two birds with one stone.
Who would have thought you'd be on a panel where more people than not had seen the Mams Boys?
Right. Runaway Dreams.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Right,
Marcus,
for the side episode, Ross, we're going to talk about the guitar solo by the Mama's Boys, but that's not for now.
Yeah.
please not now. Please, Marcus, please not now.
Go on,
Marcus,
couldn't
tell
I?
us what you thought of Clutching at Straws.
Well, I mean, Gibson says it was 100 times better than he expected. I think it was, well, I wouldn't say 100 times worse, but it's absolutely awful. The whole thing, absolutely terrible. It fulfilled every expectation I had. I was trying to have an open mind. I was hoping for the Henry VIII kind of revelation and the joy, but absolutely none of it. I remember said when we did that Oasis album, you said they kind of telegraph where the next chord's coming from, don't they? You know it's going to be an A or a G or a C. This is sort of the same, but with I couldn't name what the chords were going to be, but you know the sort of the type of music that's going to come next, because it's going to be between each bit of singing, there's going to be a twiddly bit in the guitar where he's trodden on all of his pedals. So he's got reverb, delay, chorus, and distortion on every single time. So it's the same sound coming out, and it's always between his vocals. You know, the vocal lines themselves, they're devoid of tune. They just do this sort of like wibbling around a note, and sort of that, and that's it. And it's the same every song. And then you listen to the words, and they're just not nonsense. They're kind of really trying to do sort of looking at rain, the rain on the street, the bartender wiping the glass up, and he wipes up a warm wet circle after you've had a little snicker because it sounds like a rude thing, and then you realise that glasses and they're not even warm, so they don't even make sense. It's like a Delamitri song, but done badly.
Nice, Marcus. I like that, Marcus. Can I just pick up on that? I completely agree, and I think that's one thing part of me. I'm still struggling with a lot of this, how I really feel about it. But I think you're right, Marcus. The lyrics are so corny and kind of like they think they're being so profound, and he sings every line like he's just delivered a real zinger, and it's just like it's an embarrassing.
It's totally embarrassing. I mean, the phrase which comes to mind was sick form poetry, but that's such an insult to the students who write poetry for their A levels. It's way beyond that, and yeah, it's that kind of he thinks he's commenting on the banality of life. It's what it seems to be that's coming out, but it ends up being nothing. I mean, there's a line here, something about what is it, a mother's kiss on a broken heart or something. And it's so amateurish and poor. I was wondering how no one has got a red pen here. There's nobody in the studio or the record company or A&R who's got, guys, this just isn't up to scratch. This is not good enough to go out. It needs reworking. You've got to look at these lyrics again. You've got to look at the arrangements and guitar. But then I've got it wrong because, like you said, I looked at Wikipedia like Quarter to Nine Tonight and found out this has been a huge success. And people have put this in, the top albums of all time and stuff. So, I'm the one on a different planet here, but I can only speak from what I hear. Everything about it was familiar, derivative, unoriginal. We've got the guitar sound ripped off from 80s Rush. We've got Incommunicado sounding like the Who's low points of the early 80s, even to the Daltrey-esque delivery of some shouting and then some talking. It's absolutely everything has got a reference point that's very, very near, but not taken as it's not taken as inspiration and moved on. It's just sort of copied. It's facsimile from other artists and then thrown together, and that's why it's so predictable. There's a complete lack of danger, edge, anything to it. In a way, it would have been better.
There's quite a lot of edge in his guitar playing, to be fair.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, I like that. In a way,
Marcus, I'm trying to stop you.
Yeah, okay.
Hold on.
Can I say one more? My just little
of course.
conclusion. I just think maybe in production terms, if they'd gone for proper sort of American commercial AOR rock, that might have been, they could have done that with a little bit of reshaping, and it might have been a better outcome for them. But because it's almost got those bits in there, with the snare drum and stuff like that, the ballad by numbers of one of the songs towards the end, but they don't. They go for this cherry picking bits of other artists and putting it together, and it's whatever it is, this mishmash of nonsense.
Joe Marcus, I agree with everything you're saying, and I also agree that had they tried to make an REO Speedwagon record, it would have been better. Or Ross, is it a dark brooding masterpiece?
I love this. I'm not going to go all Simon and Madonna on us tonight, but
don't get me started. So honestly, wait till you see how many fucking Simon's got this whole folder of Madonna remixes. He keeps going on and on about it to me. He sends me messages about it. I've got 20. I've got this. And I keep being explicitly rude to him, saying, "Mark, Simon, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear about you. I've got these folders. I can't wait to tell everyone." It's just like. Honestly, I still think he's taking the piss. Part of me still thinks. I see him quite a lot, and he goes on and on about it all the time.
Well, I promised not to do that, but I love this album. I thought I really, I mean, I've played this more times than I needed to for this. I've been doing it for pleasure, and I've enjoyed going back and listening to those first four Marillion albums immensely. And I think this one is up with the other three. I think it's probably up with Script for a Jester's Tear. I think it's probably my personal top four, slightly behind Misplaced Childhood and Fugazi. But I think this is really, really good. I think, musically, those whole four first albums are of a piece, instrumentally. I mean, you're not, if one of these songs comes on the radio, you're not sitting there struggling to work out who it is. Which actually I think that the later stuff you do, because it's more varied. But it's a Marillion sound. You're right. I mean, Steve Rotheray would be bereft if you took away his delay pedal, but I like that sound. I think what makes this is Fish. I think he absolutely drives this through in absolute force of personality, in the way that while still Steve Hogarth is a good singer, I think his vocals are part of the instrumentation almost, which could be said as a good thing. Whereas I think this is, you've got the instrumentation going on, and then you've got Fish driving the whole thing home. I like his lyrics. I don't think these are as picturesque as the ones on the first three albums, but essentially it's semi-autobiographical and autobiographical, dealing with his unhappiness as a band, his descent into alcoholism, and I think it's direct in a way. What I really like though is that, because after Misplaced Childhood, they could have gone on and tried to be a singles chart band. Let's do Katie again. Whereas I think stylistically, if this one had come between Fugazi and Misplaced Childhood, it wouldn't seem out of order. I think it's a slight step backwards, and I think that's really to their credit. But I liked every track on this. I think Sugar Mice I can't get out of my head. I mean, I woke up the other night and it was going around my head. I think I like that. I mean, yes, it's absolutely splendid, I think. And thank you for putting this back on my thing. I don't know why I haven't listened to Marillion for the last 30 odd years.
Is it shit, Ross? You're full of shit. Steenie.
Yeah.
When I think of you, I do think of Steve Rothery.
Oh, thank you.
And
why is that?
No, you tell me.
Is it does he play a Paul Reed Smith? I'm sure he must.
I bet he does. Do you know what I mean? When I hear him,
he probably does.
He's playing a Strat at Donington, but he's the ultimate PRS player.
I don't have a Paul Reed Smith, and I never will hold one. I approached this album with a huge amount of trepidation. I kind of expected to go into it thinking, I'll have a laugh, and there'll be things in this that I'll pick out that I'll think that could be all right, but it'll be overblown nonsense and pompous and pretentious, and it is pompous and pretentious, but I really enjoyed it. I found myself really, really enjoying this record. I don't know why. I can't quite put my finger on it. The production is that sort of 80s production, very, as we've said, the guitar sounds are very delay, heavy, chorusy. The snare sound for the most part is massively gated, and that horrible sound. There's like 80s cheesy synths all over it. The lyrics are at times preposterous and slightly pretentious. I really found myself warming to it a lot. I kept listening to it again and again, which is absolutely shocking to me. But I found there's quite a lot to recommend, and I think that what Mark has said about its derivative points, where you can say this sounds like this sounds like that. That might be part of why I found myself warming to it, because there are lots of touchstones that I have musically that I could hear echoing through it. And rather than seeing it as sort of derivative or something to mock or dismiss the music based on it being slightly derivative, I've found that to be quite, it resonated rather than jarred. So I found loads of things to enjoy about it. It's deeply surprised me, this record, deeply. I found and I enjoyed the lyrics. I think the lyrics are um at times. I mean, he's always worn his sort of literary pretensions very, very blatantly. Fish. He's never shied away from the fact that he's deep in, and I hate it when people try and drop deep literary references in and fly and signpost them really obviously. Look at these books that I've read. Look at this and that album cover with Dylan Thomas on it, and is it Lenny Bruce, and there's a few other faces, and he's like, oh, this is going down that road, and there's the there's a Who lyric that as well on one of these album one of their very later albums where that always made me laugh, which is uh where it's something like Bridget Bardot in Godard's Les Mépris or something like that, and I'm just like, when someone sort of said, "Look at my arty credentials, I know what I'm talking about. I'm a man of reading and artistic taste," and I always think, "Oh, fuck off, I don't need this to be put in my face." And there's that in the lyrics, but I actually do think that he means it, and there's that bit when he's talking about, what's that line about Kerouac?
Oh God.
Yeah, normally I'd be sick in my mouth if I heard someone mention Jack Kerouac, but I kind of get it with that song. And in that verse, he actually rhymes the word on 3 times with the word on, doesn't he? It says something.
Is that the one where he says my address is #1 at the end of the bar?
No, it's
Honestly,
not Sugar Mice.
it's just.
Or is
It's
it?
just
Or is that
I
Clutch
don't.
Sports? It's one of the ones to the end. That one. No, I think it's before that. It's oh shit, I can't remember the name of the song.
I just can't believe you're
But
defending this in any shape or form, Steve.
I'm
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 embarrassed for you, man.
I'm staggered. I'm staggered how much I enjoyed this album. I'm very heartily with Ross on this. I think I'm not ashamed to say that I found this album quite in some ways quite charming, and I was
It
surprised.
is. It is. There is a kind of. There is a naive, safe space English charm to this. There is.
I
It
think
doesn't rock. It doesn't. You play this to your granny, wouldn't you? And your granny would sort of go,
I think my grandparents would have probably. Well, I actually did play Vigil in the Wilderness of Mirrors to my grandparents in a car. That actually did happen. But anyway, back to this album. There are one of the things I really think that I was expecting this album was vast amount. Having never really listened to Marillion and having this neo prog tag, I was expecting like huge instrumental passages that would bear no, be very boring and dreary and just wander off into nothingness. And it's incredibly concise. This record, every bit of the song is there because it kind of has to be. There's not a lot of flab on it, to be
yeah,
honest.
but Steenie, the flab is Fish. The flab is it's a fish. Fish has pushed everybody back. It's all about him, and it's about
Well, that's
Misplaced
because
Childhood was a concept album about Fish's childhood. This is about he's the all the previous album covers were kind of they had this kind of thematic thing, right? But this one's it's just like, well, Fish says like, I want this person, that person, that person. Apparently, the poor cover artist hadn't even finished it. EMI just said we need it now, and he delivered it and hated it and stuff.
I think
Well, Fish is happy.
to be fair though, I mean, what band isn't about their main songwriter? I mean, that's the
Well,
nature of it, isn't it? It's
it's how much of it do you want though? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I'm quite put off by this amount of Fish in my face all
Fish
the
in
way
the
through,
face.
shouting in his terrible. Anyway,
And yeah, no, in his voice, it doesn't bother me. It sounds like different people at different times though. And like, what
well,
song is it where he
Peter
actually
Gabriel in 1973, Peter Gabriel in 1976, Peter Gabriel in 1981.
there's bits of Phil Collins. Weirdly, there's bits of you mentioned Gary Moore before. There was a song where I was like, God, when he's shouting, he sounds like when Gary Moore's really going for it. And then there's the bit in that song Slancher that with the he's actually sings in a Scottish his normal accent probably at one point, and he sounds like Alex Harvey. And I was like, oh, this is cool. This sounds like the Alex Harvey band. And there's loads of this that I really enjoyed. I like the silliness of what's the really sort of upbeat proggy one.
Incommunicado.
No. I knew that song already, but I didn't realize that was on this album, as I've said. And I do enjoy that song, even though it does sound like Bellboy off of Quadrophenia, which this record does sound a lot like all the way through. And that's the record I like, and I know that you hate. So, but yeah, I think it sort of it's got so much charm. It won me over, and
Okay,
all of the neffiness.
Steve, we're going to leave it there till you're
Yeah.
scored because you're getting a little bit kind of you're getting a little bit, I don't know, you're getting a bit those a bit sort of.
Well, it's funny because I wasn't expecting it to resonate with me emotionally, and I don't think it did particularly. But I think it must have a bit because I'm quite willing to defend this record. I do think it's a lot better than I thought it was going to be, and I think that a lot of people are saying it is. I think it has a quality to it. And I can sort of see where these Marillion maniacs are coming from.
Well, there's a few of them here, let's be fair. Steve Gibson, can you please restore a little bit of sanity in your traditional way? Can you give me a summing up and a score, please? Or anything else you'd like to say about Marillion?
Summing up is, I quite enjoyed it, but I don't know why. And even delving into the sheet music and the interesting chords, I'm still thinking, why am I liking it? Because it just sounds quite cheesy. But having said that, my favorite song would be the one that is in 7, which is I'll talk about it later. I can't remember, got the thing in front of me now. But I'm 65 for me for this. For the whole, that's the album, and that's the whole Marillion thing. I like what they do. I like the way they've stuck at their guns. They're just Marillion. I like the support man thing. I like the crowdfunder thing. I like the fact they've got a cultish following. Although I think that's it. But as Steenie points out, I think we've all been down that road at some point with someone. So yeah, I
So
wouldn't.
hang on. So Steve, you're not giving a mark for the album. You're giving just a mark for just Marillion.
I'm giving it because if I didn't, then we'd have to call into question whether this is a questionable album or not.
So do you remember when you gave like Bob Dylan's Save like 15 out of 100? Was that for Bob Dylan or was that just for that album?
No, that was for that album.
Okay.
That was spouting a load of Christian stuff.
So one
that
rule
was a
for
questionable
Bob.
album, in my opinion.
One rule for Bob Dylan, one rule for fucking Marillion.
No, it's one rule for Questionable Album Club, whether the album's questionable or not. All right then. Of this album, I'm giving 65.
Thank you. Right.
If you want that, if you want that,
Marcus, yes, that's what I'm here for, Marcus.
Well, favorite song, Slainty Marth. Forgive me if I've pronounced it incorrectly. I thought that had some humour. I love the Scottish accent. I thought was well, it was inauthentic, wasn't it? I know he's a Scot, but it was exaggerated. But there was some humour in that song, so I'll have that one as my top song. But basically, it fulfilled everything that it promised to me before I even pressed play. Poor, unimaginative, never want to hear it again, or any Marillion ever again. 13 out of 100.
Unlucky for some, 13. I remember I've never owned a Marillion album, but somebody at school, when I was at secondary school, lent me the cassette version of Misplaced Childhood. And you remember you said those folded up inlays, and you'd fold up. I just remember he lent it. I remember getting home, and it was just, it opened up into like this. And it was like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do with this? And he wanted it back the next day. I was like, well, I couldn't even get it back in the box. It's like, what is all this? It's just fish. It was just like, here's more and more and more. Ross.
Yeah, this was terrific. I think often it comes down to, I think, how much you like Fish, really. And I think he's great. And I think you're right, he's absolutely out in front of this, but for me, that's a very, very good thing. And I've also massively enjoyed going back to listening to the previous 3 albums, and I forgot how good Misplaced Childhood was. I had my mind had it as the weakest of the 4 because it, the poppy one, but actually, each one of those albums has something. So this has been great. I really enjoyed this, and I'll be carrying on listening to more Marillion in the future. So my favorite track is Sugar Mice, just because it's been a real earworm for me. And I'm going to give it 80.
Ross, it sounds to me like you need to go a bit into a bit of a deep dive into Fish's solo if you haven't.
I plan to, yes.
Yeah, it's exciting. Okay, thank you, 80. Steenie?
Well, as I've ranted about it a lot, I'm going to rate this highly as well. I think I was surprised. Once again surprised how concise and neat, the tracks. They're 5 minutes, 6 minutes, but they're not rambling prog epics. I think the concept hangs together because it's basically a single concept, isn't it? It's just there's no as a concept album, it doesn't have a story particularly with a a kind of dramatic arc or anything like that. It's a one subject concept album, but I think because of that and the fact that it's all very tight, it hangs together very well. For me, I think I'm going to give it 78. My customary high mark. Apparently, I'm the highest marker anyway, but I think this is worth 78. I think this is, this is a decent album from a band that I never paid any attention to and written off, in fact. Favorite song, I would say between Just for the Record, which is the upbeat, funny prog with the synthy bits, and I really enjoyed some synthy bits in that and some of the crazy solos. And but I think really in terms of quality, I'm going to agree with Ross and say Sugar Mice is probably the best song because I think it has an honesty and it's a good song lyrically and musically. It just fits. It's good, great tune.
78, thank you. I am going to give it 33 because when I first listened to it after a few glasses of wine about a week ago, I really liked it. I was like, oh, this is really good. But every time I've got diminishing returns ever since then, and now it just irritates me. And now you know when you have Christmas dinner. And like 3 hours later, you still feel really full and a bit sickly. And the music always makes me feel like that. It just makes me feel like, oh, I don't really need to. I don't know. I feel bloated in some sort of strange way. And but there is something strangely likable about it. I think there's quite. I don't know. It's quite charming in that kind of weird English way. And I like my favorite song is Hotel Hobbies. I like it's a funny hotel hobby. It's basically just getting pissed in a hotel room. It's quite funny, and I like it when it kicks in with the kind of proggy chords. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I'm still mystified by this whole thing, but I'm glad we've been through this. It's a bit of a kind of self-help thing for us all, I think, in a way. This. So 33. So I have a horrible feeling this is going to be in it's going to be in the top 10, I think, but I don't know where it's going to be. So we've got 269 divided by 5, 53.8. Let me just write that down. 53.8. And that puts us 53.8. Oh, crikey, yeah, definitely top 10. Puts it number 6 in between the Rolling Stones' Satanic Majesty's Request number, which has 57, and Van Halen 3, which is 53.8. So yeah. Oh, 52.8, pardon me. So yeah, a solid 6. It's made it into the top 10. So well done, me. Hooray. I can only apologise. Marcus, we're saving the best to last, Marcus, now.
Yeah,
what you got for us,
it's my choice. Don't worry, it's no pop folk from me this time round.
Come
it's
on.
A band which
Fish solo.
It's a big successful band. It's Primal Scream, actually. I saw Primal Scream 1987 when they were sort of snot-nosed kind of punk band, really, in a little gig at uni. There was about 30 people there, and they were fantastic, really grotty and grimy. Kept an eye out for them, and then Load came out in 1990, and I just thought this is astonishing. I never really liked any kind of electronic music. And this was the first one, where I thought, oh yeah, some electronic remix of a rock song. This is really weird and interesting. Loved Loaded, and then Screamadelica came out a couple of months later and kind of changed my world, really. So massive place in my heart for Primal Scream. Screamadelica is probably in my top 5 of all time, but it's not Screamadelica. It's the follow-up, which was called Give Out But Don't Give Up. It was sort of the back to the roots, back to the garage rock sound for Primal Scream, showing they hadn't sold out, they hadn't just taken loads of drugs and gone to nightclubs, but they could still bash their guitars. And it spawned a few hit singles as well, so kept them in the public eye. But the purists weren't so happy. So I'll leave it at that. It's a questionable album. And I will leave you to enjoy it over the next week or two till we come back. Give Out But Don't Give Up, Primal Scream, the follow-up to their genre-busting all-time classic. or
Marcus,
Scrimdale.
I hate to say, I think it's a great choice. And in fact, funnily enough, I my first lesson this morning, I was asked to teach Rocks, the first song of this album.
Well, there you go. It just
what a
shows
crazy
you.
coincidence.
It's an amazing world we live in, Seb, isn't it? These things,
Yeah.
how they go around in a big old circle.
Yeah, it's
A
very
warm, wet circle.
and it's very easy, by the way. On that note, Steve Gibson, I know you're a massive Primal Scream fan, so are you excited about this?
It was my turn to dip out, luckily. So see you
Oh
in,
no!
see you in a couple of
Oh,
weeks. Yeah. So
oh.
sadly,
All of a sudden. Oh, is that the top of the
well,
top?
I did. I sat there. We played at the Victorious, didn't we? And they were on.
Yes.
I just sat there looking at them, thinking, well, that
We got
doesn't
their
matter,
crowd. We
I
got
think.
their crowd.
Doesn't matter what.
That's right. They were on the main. They were on the main stage. We were playing a side stage, and all their fans came back and kind of came to see us instead. We owe them something, Steve. We owe them something.
I don't feel I do. No. So anyway, enjoy, and I'll see you in a few weeks. I'll see you for the special.
Good choice, Marcus. Thanks everyone. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe if you like any of this, or if you don't like it. Cheers, guys. Thanks, Ross.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Deanie.
Cheers. Take it easy.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, Marcus. My name is Seb Hunter, and thanks for watching, and see you on the next one. Goodbye.